Cash.
Thank you, sir. I am very pleased to support this motion and endorse indeed the sentiments that have been expressed in the debate thus far, particularly the ones just expressed. I'm sure that this House would thoroughly agree with, and it is very important that we celebrate our multicultural and the intercultural diversity of society, that we celebrate Aboriginal culture in this House and in our society, and that we call out examples of racism wherever they be seen, and particularly, as indeed the member just highlighted, examples of racist behaviour by political leaders, examples whether overseas or here in South Australia, must also have that action by all of us. It's incumbent to call it out and act on it and ensure that people who come to Australia from whatever part of the world, or people whose heritage and culture has been in this country for 60,000 years or longer, can contribute to our community, free from not only discrimination but free from intimidation, abuse, bullying or racism in any of its abhorrent forms. I am really pleased that, as the member for Bragg, the Deputy Premier, said, and as the member for Badco, in moving the motion, that we start with an acknowledgement of our First Nations people as the oldest continuous culture in the world, and the ongoing connection of the Aboriginal people with this land is tremendously important. We do it in this chamber now every day since the member for Hartley, now the Police Minister, instituted that as a daily practice, previously at a weekly practice, and I commend those who brought that to the House. It is important that we have a reminder, as we do, and I speak so now as Education Minister, in our schools, that we have a commitment to creating culturally safe spaces for Aboriginal learners, but more than that, areas where all students celebrate and become increasingly familiar with Aboriginal culture. The motion talks about recognising the rich linguistic, cultural, racial and religious diversity of our community. I come, sir, as the member for Morialta, a seat which, when I checked, when I was first elected, I believe had more people speaking language other than English at home than any other seat in this House. The numbers may well have changed in the last 10 or 11 years as indeed the community has changed and the boundaries change from time to time as well. But can I tell you, sir, whether it's the most or if it's just up there, the extraordinary contribution of the multicultural community to my seat in Morialta has been across every realm of that community. It's impossible to imagine suburbs like Rostrevor and Athelston and Newton without not just the significant contribution of the Italian community to that area, but also the broader contribution of the Greek community, more recently the Indian community, communities from South and Southeast Asia who make our areas what it is. I think that there isn't a citizenship ceremony that goes by where that breadth of diversity can't be seen, and it is celebrated, and they are welcomed in the community across Morialta. Campbelltown, Tea Tree Gully, Burnside and Adelaide Hills Councils all do a good show of supporting that. Another area, of course, where we do a significant amount of work in celebrating Harmony Day and recognising it is through our Education Department. And I'm very pleased as Education Minister to report to the House that schools right across South Australia took the opportunity on Harmony Day and indeed in the week leading up and in Harmony Week following to do their own representations. Some of the examples I thought I would share. At Brighton Primary School, students were orange. Indeed, many of our schools, students took the opportunity to wear orange on the day. They had a Harmony Day assembly. They shared kindness rocks with buddy classes. And at the southeast, at Naracoorte Primary School, after the Harmony Day celebrations, students in one of the classrooms I saw created a jigsaw-themed artwork to show how we all fit together. Indeed, at Elizabeth Downs Primary School, the students in their intensive English language program, students who are not from Australia who are given extra support to help them integrate into a schooling environment where English is the language of instruction, they produced cookies for the whole school and were able to share them with students around, give them a specific opportunity to interact and celebrate Harmony Day. I noticed through some of the social media that was shared by the Department for Education website that those students, as part of their English, reflected on what Harmony Day, attributes of Harmony Day mean in that school. Words like kindness, happy, helping, safe, accepting, together, belonging, and perhaps most importantly, love. And that was terrific to see. Ingle Farm Primary School students wore either orange or indeed were encouraged to wear traditional clothing of their culture, and it was amazing to see all the students in those clothes. They worked together on a sort of a musical school performance where Harmony Day was represented through the creation of a school-wide harmony, and that was apparently something to hear. At Mannum Community College, in the member for Hammond's electorate, students wore orange. They had music playing at lunchtime. They had international flags brought together on a bunting display in celebration of Australia's diversity. The International Assembly at Charles Campbell College is one that I've gone to as many years as I can get to, and it's one where the dozens and dozens and dozens over the years, again, more than 100 different cultures that have represented the student body of that school, both from Australians of different heritages, but also a strong international student program that adds to what can go on at that school is always a highlight. The Gawler East Primary School in the north, students and families wrote their wishes for the world becoming more harmonious on paper doves that the school provided to them, and then they were displayed throughout the school grounds. Look out on the school's website or Facebook page for those pictures. Extraordinarily beautiful, colourful designs produced not only by the students, but by the students with their families to celebrate Harmony Day. I thought that was a great effort. Curtin Point Children's Centre created Harmony Day art. I saw one of our colleagues in this building sending their child in their first year at Highbury Primary School, one of my local primary schools, in the Morialta electorate, although the member for Newland claims half of it because the boundary cuts through the oval, sending her child to their first year at Highbury Primary School wearing orange proudly. And that was, I think, something that many of us on our Facebook pages and feeds would have seen, them sending their children, our friends sending their children to school dressed in orange, because Harmony Day has become an extraordinarily important part of the Australian psyche. When I was at school, I don't know if this was something that could have been said at that stage. There are many ways in which we've evolved as a community and which we do better as a community. And I think Harmony Day has been a useful lever for us to engage with young people. It's something that creates a lot of fun in school environments and helps our young people to use their own creativity to interact very positively with the intercultural and multicultural approach that we now take in our society. I want to recognise a couple of more broad community contributions. Every school in South Australia, I suspect, had some engagement with Harmony Day, and as Minister I commend them. But also more broadly throughout the community, the work that's done by many to promote multiculturalism in the spirit of Harmony Day. The Multicultural Communities Council of South Australia, I want to particularly thank Helena Koriazopoulos and her team. Thank you for the balloons that you sent me here, and that was a tremendous and joyful reminder for myself. And I can tell the Multicultural Communities Council, their balloons are still maintaining their structural integrity as they rise proudly in the Minister for Education's office, greeting every visitor that comes in, and will continue to do so while the balloons hold out. A couple of the things that the Deputy Premier reflected on in her comments I want to repeat. I am going to be hunting down, as she suggested, a copy of Gary Hiskey's book, Maralinga, which was particularly, I remember the launch, being sorry that I couldn't get there. I'm going to hunt down that book, having been reminded to by the Deputy Premier, and I certainly encourage members to do so. And particularly as we head towards the delivery of the extraordinary Aboriginal Cultures Gallery, set to be delivered on Lot 14, the old Royal Adelaide Hospital site, thanks to the investment of this government and indeed the Commonwealth Government. I think that's it's going to be a tremendous representation of Aboriginal culture in our state and South Australia in particular, as well as being a point of interest and a point of education for South Australians of all backgrounds and visitors alike. And finally, to report an update to the House, the Adelaide Holocaust Museum and Steiner Education Centre, which was established in the last 6 months, is taking so many school students. School visits to the Steiner Education Centre and Holocaust Museum are booked up right to the middle of the year, and many schools are already booked up for visits in the second half of the year. I'm very pleased to be part of a government that supported the introduction of that outstanding new facility, and I encourage anybody in the community to get along and visit during the opening hours. Give it some of your own philanthropic support to ensure that it can continue offering education programs for school students and members of the community alike for many years to come.